PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Do you ever feel like you're normal and the rest of the world has lost its collective mind?
Put your helmet on. We'll be reaching speeds of 3.
Do you find people saying this to you a lot?
Are you totally deranged?
Are you looking for a looking glass to pass through?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Or looking for a rabbit hole to fall down?
Who could think of a better punishment, really? Everything's the same here, it's just a little worse.
Guess what?
Life's a bitch. Now so am I.
You found it. Welcome to Platinum Rose's Garden.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week here on Platinum Rose's Garden. I'm Platinum Rose Lady, your host, and welcoming you on March 16th, 2019. I hope everybody had a terrific week out there. My week was pretty okay, can't really complain all that much. Obviously, this weekend is a great big celebration tomorrow, which would be St. Patrick's Day if you are of Irish descent, which is an obviously wonderful thing to be since I am part Irish and I'm also Canadian. So I've always told people that the whole Irish-Canadian thing is I am a warrior and I will kick the crap out of you, but I am Canadian, so I will have to apologize for beating you up. Sorry. It's just a thing we do. Obviously, as I mentioned, it's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow as I'm recording this, and a lot of places are going to be celebrating, and people are going to be having fun and stuff like that. And a lot of people's idea of having fun on St. Patrick's Day is to get piss blind drunk, which, if you're an adult, go ahead and do it, although I don't, if that's your thing, I'm definitely not encouraging people to get drunk. I really don't understand the purpose of getting that hammered that you don't remember what you did the next day, but whatevs. But if you are someone who's planning on imbibing a lot on St. Patrick's Day, please do us all a favor, a designated driver, or Uber home, or do something so that you don't, wrap yourself around a telephone pole or whatever, or, wind up getting arrested, or anything like that. I hate being everybody's mom for a minute, but, just, you gotta be careful out there, because we're all out there too, and I don't want to get hurt by you being a drunk nitwit. So, sorry, that wasn't very nice. Obviously, now the main thing St. Patrick is known for, St. Patrick is known for two things. St. Patrick is known for bringing Christianity to Ireland, which is a good thing, if you're Catholic, and, or Christian, sorry. And also, that allegedly he drove all the snakes out of Ireland, which of course then begs the question, where did all the snakes go? It's, that's something that's I've always been like, do they mean that metaphorically? Like he drove the snakes out of Ireland, or do they mean he actually drove the snakes out of Ireland, said, hit the bricks, snakes, and they all just left. I've always been like, I don't know, and you never got to ask questions like that in CCD, because that's when you got smacked with a ruler. No. I've always been like, okay, well, if the snakes got driven out of Ireland, they wound up where? I always think they just slithered over to America and got involved in politics, but that's just my opinion for what it's worth, and nobody asked my opinion anyway. So moving forward, we're over here now. Whee! I would like to bring up now the thing that I like to bring up every week, where I talk about a book or a fanfic or a video or something that I've seen recently that I think you all would get a kick out of, and I hope you'll come and check out that segment next. Okay, when it comes to something that I think you guys should check out, I definitely think if you have not given them a view over on YouTube, which is where I found them, or you can check out their website. Definitely go check out List 25. You can find them on YouTube, as I mentioned, over at, put in the search thing, put in List 25, and you can follow them there. You can also check out their website, list25.com, which has their videos up, and you can go over there and look at them. They have videos about all kinds of stuff and all kinds of, crazy things. Some of their videos are things like, talking about 25 students you might remember from high school, 25 of the best insults from Shakespeare that don't involve swearing, which I really like that one. I really could use that one right now since I've given up cursing for Lent, and it's not easy. Oh gosh, it's not easy. They are really fun. They do a lot of really good work, and you can tell they put a lot of exhaustive time into their research, and they make their videos fun and funny. Most of the time, the people on the videos are Mike or Tristan, and now they've brought in another person, a very lovely young lady named Hope, who is just as talented as Mike and Tristan. And they're just super fun to watch. They brighten up my day. If I've had kind of a blah day, I'll definitely go check out one of their videos. And it cheers me up. So I hope you will go give List 25 a look-see. Like I mentioned, you can search for them on YouTube or go to list25.com. And when you get there, if you like their stuff and you drop them a note, please let them know that you heard about them here first on Platinum Rose's Garden. And now let's get to what everybody came for, this week's Supernatural episode recap.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest.
Season 14, Episode 15 of Supernatural, Peace of Mind. The then segment is dealing with a bunch of different things, including the snakes that have appeared on Supernatural, which considering that it's a show that gets into some creepy areas, there haven't been a whole lot of snakes. To borrow a quote from Dr. Indiana Jones, snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? Although I happen to like snakes, I think they're neat. We see Felix, the snake that had been owned by the Gorgon that Jack has now taken into his, taken with him and is now his pet apparently. And also the scene from Yellow Fever where Dean was getting friendly, or the snake was getting friendly with him. Beautiful albino snake. I think it was a boa constrictor. We also have some footage of Donatello Redfield, the prophet, whose soul had been taken from him by Amara, and the whole mess that happened with Michael when Dean was attacked last week and wound up losing consciousness. Michael fled from Dean's body, fled from the locked room Dean had in his mind, and wound up possessing Rowena and killing all of the other hunters in the Batcave, the ones from the Apocalypse world, except for, obviously, the Winchesters, Castiel and Jack, including young Maggie, who died right in front of Sam. The culmination of all of that mess was Jack killing Michael and absorbing his grace, but we don't know how much of Jack's soul he used to do that. So we're not sure where that stands, but he now is full powered again, but possibly without a soul. We don't know. And now we are at Now. And Now is in Arkansas, where a young man is running and looks like he's running for his life. He's dressed kind of strangely. His hair's kind of slicked back, and his clothes just look a little odd, almost 50 kind of retro look. He runs to a diner where he tries to get the waitress in the diner, a young woman named Sunny, to go with him somewhere, and she doesn't go with him, but she tells him to run. So he winds up running and runs out of this town, which we find out later on is called Charming Acres. He runs to a gas station that isn't in the town, and we realize when he runs into the gas station, there's something very wrong with him, besides the fact that he's scared out of his wits and has been running for quite a bit. He's hearing this high-pitched noise that apparently only only he can hear because the clerk behind the counter obviously can't. The guy begs to use the phone. He grabs the young man's phone, runs to the back of the store as the sound is getting louder and these kind of bulges are showing under his skin. And all of a sudden there's this explosion sound and his head explodes. The young man behind the counter goes to the part of the store where this guy was, and he's lying on the ground, very obviously dead, and his head is violently exploded, as in there is parts of his brain and skull on the ceiling and falls to the floor with a really wet plop, and the young man pukes. That's a completely normal and reasonable reaction to something like that happening. Don't feel bad, young man. That was, I think, pretty much anybody. No, I don't think I would have puked. I think I would have just died. That would have just been it. I would have just keeled over dead. We cut back to the Bat Cave and we see Castiel checking on Jack. Jack says he's feeling okay. A lot of people say they're feeling okay on this show. I mean, if we all had $1 for every time somebody said, I'm fine, when they clearly were not fine, I think we could all pool together and buy ourselves a small country and just call it Supernaturalandia and live there fairly happy forever and ever and ever, as long as I get to be queen. Jack is trying to feed the snake, which he's kept, and apparently is, I don't know if Jack intends to rename the snake or it's still Felix, I'm not sure. But he's saying the snake won't eat. And, you know, Castiel kind of speculates, and the Winchesters have as well, that maybe the snake is missing his friend, the Noah, the Gorgon from the episode Ouroboros, which was last week. I don't entirely know if snakes form emotional ties with their owners. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know anyone who's owned a snake to that extent that they feel a deep emotional attachment to it, but I guess it could happen. Stranger things have happened. When Cass asks him, Jack is honest and says he doesn't know how much of his soul he has left. We see Dean in the kitchen eating. He's having a sandwich, and you can tell he's really enjoying being able to, you know, not have to worry about an archangel battering down his brain anymore. Cass comes into the room and starts talking with Dean, and Dean mentions how he got a call from Rowena, and Rowena's saying that she's coping, and Dean also brings up that after Cass asks how Sam's doing, Dean says that Sam says that he's good, and that Dean thinks both Jack and Sam are full of it. We cut to Sam, who is in the room where a lot of the people wound up dead, and we can see him still seeing the bodies of those that were lost that day, including Maggie, and Sam is just eating himself up with guilt. And he's also packing to go someplace, and my heart is breaking because #LoyalSam is on, and all I want to do is take him in my arms and put his head on my heart and just stroke his hair and be like, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. It's not your fault. Please don't do this to yourself. I love you. Don't do this to yourself. Please, please, please. As I mentioned, #LoyalSam is on. As it turns out, Sam's found a case in Arkansas, the aforementioned the head exploding case. Dean is of the opinion that they need to kind of rest because they've been working on cases nonstop, cases that it sounds like Sam has found for them, because we can only imagine what is going on in Sam's mind when he tries to sleep. Again, poor sweet darling. I'm sorry, this show is trying to find more and more ways to kill me. I'm convinced of it. Castiel says he'll go with Sam, and that Dean's like he's going to stay and stay with Jack. Keep the whole keep an eye on Jack isn't said, but it's pretty much underlined. So Sam and Cass, doing the whole Fed thing, go to the gas station where this young man had died, and question the clerk, and whose name is Griffin, as it turns out, he tells them he tells them basically what he saw, that the guy looked like he'd been running all night long, and then he just went all scanners. To which Cass's response is, was it more scanners 1, 2, or 3? I don't know why it bothers me so much, the idea that Cass has watched all of those movies. I don't know why. I don't know why that bothers me. I just like to think that if Castiel watches movies, he's watching, stuff by Zhang Zhimou, or, I don't know. I just want him to see things that are beautiful and amazing and not scanners. I'm not knocking the scanners movies. I'm just like, don't you see enough death and destruction? Can't you see amazing things? Or, something like by Ang Lee or something. Can't you watch like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or something like that? But, Griffin mentions how he thinks that because of the way the guy was dressed and stuff like that he was from Charming Acres, which, as Griffin says, it's weird. It's a weird place. And when Sam and Cass show up there, they find out very quickly what he's talking about. This place looks like something out of a Norman Rockwell painting. Everybody is dressed like it's the 1950s, or even I'd say the 50s, maybe even late 40s. I can't really, all the men have hats, all the women are dressed like Donna Reed, and it's all just so, I'm sorry, I'm watching this and this is what is making my skin crawl. I'm watching this and it's just, I'm sitting there going, urge to puke rising. They also can't get a hold of anybody. Sam brings up that there's no cell phone, can't get through on the cell phones. They wind up interviewing a few people right there on the street, a man named Justin Smith and his wife Cindy. And they're like people from friggin' Mayberry or something, like these, the things you would see on an idealized version of the 50s in, television or something like that, where there was no segregation or racism or blatant sexism and objectification of women and stuff like that, the good old days that people talk about. Blech. The strange thing is that Justin seems to be kind of puzzled by Sam's cell phone, and he kind of repeats the word cell phone to himself as Cindy kind of pulls him away because they're going to a bake sale. And Cindy's very insistent that they get going. And I have officially decided I don't like Cindy. And that's not a good place for Cindy to be. So they... And it's really an extremely weird scene. And Castiel and Sam are both kind of looking at each other like, what the... They head to a place that's recommended to them, the Harringtons, which is the diner that we saw earlier, and they're instantly given milkshakes by the girl behind the counter, Sunny, who seems to be all perky and smiley again, although the smile doesn't quite touch her eyes. Sam actually takes a drink of the milkshake and actually likes it, which I'm like, Sam doesn't do milkshakes. Sam doesn't do stuff like that. I know Sam's not a complete, no fun person, but there's something not right about this place. And it turns out that the man running the place, Chip Harrington, is also the man who is the mayor of this town. And he kind of acknowledges, he's the first one in this place that seems to kind of acknowledge that the place is a little bit on the old-fashioned side, but that's the way they like it, and that's, that they try and take care of people that live there and stuff like that. And when Castiel brings up how the young man that we saw in the beginning of the episode, how he died, and the way he died, which people had thought was from an aneurysm, and Castiel likens it to a melon exploding in the sun. Good grief, I thought I lacked tact. The whole place goes completely silent, and Sam looks at Cass like he would really like to dump that milkshake in his lap. It was really, really ridiculous. they wind up going to the house where this young man was staying, the boarding house where this young man was staying. And at first, my first attitude about this place was, I'm like, okay, white people, white people, white people, white people. There are nothing but white people in this place. This is really making me concerned. But as they're getting out of the car, they notice a couple walking by them, Asian American looking couple, walking by with a large dog. The lady that runs the boarding house is an African American lady who's very friendly, and was also expecting them and refers to them as agents because apparently news travels quickly in this town. I'm like, this place is freaking me out. I mean, freaking me out. I mean, like, when you're in an elevator and the doors open up and there's a wall there freaking you out. You know, that kind of freaking out, you know, and I don't work well in those conditions. I tend to lash out violently. So I'm like, okay, so this town does have some minorities in it. That's nice. And they don't seem to be oppressed like they really were in the 50s. So, I'm like, all right. So, we cut back to the Bat Cave and Jack is still trying to get the snake to eat. Dean suggests feeding it bacon. Dean, really? I don't actually know if snakes could eat bacon. I mean, I don't think they could not eat bacon. I don't know how why am I thinking about this? Please don't, anybody out there who owns a snake, don't feed it bacon. I think that would be a very bad idea. The thing is, Jack's trying several different things to feed the snake, as it turns out, also including live mice, which he has in a little container that you would usually have Chinese food in, which Dean finds out when he opens the container. And Dean is actually suggesting at the time that they go on a drive, he's suggesting it as he opens the container, and his voice kind of does this little hitch. It goes up about 6 octaves when he notices that he's holding a box of live mice. Thankfully, he doesn't drop it because that would hurt the mice. Back in Charming Acres, as Sam and Cass are going through the young man's room, the young man's name was Conrad, the lady, Miss Dowling, who is the woman that owns the boarding house, apparently, mentions that she only rents to young men, that she would never rent a room to a young woman by herself because morals. What? I'm like, this is like a complete other frickin' language. I don't even know how people made it to the 60s with the attitudes people had in the 50s. Castiel winds up searching the room alone while Sam goes to get a cup of coffee as a diversion, I guess. And he winds up finding some love letters under Conrad's bed written by Sonny. Very, in certain places, explicit love letters. So apparently, not everybody in town is apparently going along with these sleeping in twin beds and no sex till you're married thing, because from the sound of it, Sonny and Conrad were apparently doing the hibbity-dibbity at least one point in time. As it turns out, Sam comes back into the room holding this little dainty cup of coffee in his big, enormous hand, which looked hilarious. And Sam had said earlier that he knows that he's running them ragged and he needs to get some rest and stuff like that, which Castiel was pushing on him. And Sam was all like, the monsters aren't going to stop coming if we rest and all this stuff like that, because that's just Sam, poor darling. But now he's saying that, they should stay. They should stay in this place. Stay the night. Because Mrs. Dowling's offered to make dinner for them. Pot roast. I'm like, pot roast? I don't even know what pot roast is. I mean, I know it's meat, but other than that, I'm like, roast what? And why would Sam eat it? This is just freaking me out. I mean, freaking me out, as I mentioned, in a not good way. I don't freak out pretty. I don't. I admit that I don't cry pretty. I don't freak out pretty. I'm a cornered cat when I freak out. I slash at everything in the immediate area. We see the house of the Smiths again. We see them they're getting ready for dinner apparently. And Justin is still talking about this whole thing about the cell phone. He starts talking about cell phones as in he was going to go buy a cell phone for his daughter, and talking about his daughter and his wife, who is not the woman that he's with right now. He winds up taking off his glasses and being like, where am I? What am I doing here? Why, and he runs out of his house as he starts hearing this violent, high-pitched noise. We see his face start having these weird bumps appearing as he's screaming in pain, and he dies out in the street the same way that Conrad died, with his head exploding, and his wife just standing there going, honey? Like some shorted-out Stepford wife. I really don't like Cindy. So the same thing happened again, obviously. Sorry about the beeping behind me. I'm recording this and there's people out in the street. Sorry. We cut back to Jack and Dean. Dean is driving baby. Jack's in the front seat. And the snake is in the back seat. At least the snake doesn't have a seatbelt on, because that would just be weird. Dean says, like, maybe they should, try and feed the snake something else, because the snake apparently still isn't eating. And he throws a couple of little cakes to Jack. I hope he was kidding about feeding them to the snake. Jack doesn't do it, needless to say. And Dean brings up, why don't you eat one of them? Because you should eat something, because we're still a ways from where we need to be. The thing is, the two cakes that he offers him are like little Debbie's or Zingers or whatever, whatever kind of little pre-packaged cakes are where you live, you get it. And one of the cakes is a devil's food cake, and the other cake is an angel cake. I'm assuming, I don't know if you mean angel food cake or just angel cake, I don't know. And Jack seems to be kind of debating between the two of them, and Dean's kind of noticing this, and it's not, you can tell he's noticing it, and that it's bothering him that it's taking so long for Jack to decide between devil and angel. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, Dean, you're making too much out of this. I hope. Oh, good grief, I hope. So we cut to the morning, and Castiel, who obviously didn't sleep so much as I'm like, so what the heck did he do all night? Just sat there and stared out the window? It's not like Cass is the type that would surf the net. I mean, even if they had net service in this place, which I don't think they do. And he goes to Sam's room, and Sam's room is empty. Bed's made, everything. He goes downstairs and tries to get the attention of Miss Dowling, but she's got her headphones in and can't hear him, until he actually shouts at her, and she explains that Sam went for a walk and a milkshake at whatever in the morning. All right. So Castiel goes to Harrington's, and Sonny tells him that Sam went to the Smith's home because he heard about what happened with Justin. So Castiel goes to the Smith home and starts to question Cindy about, just trying to ease into the whole, oh, by the way, sorry your husband's head exploded thing, because Cindy doesn't seem terribly bereaved. And also doesn't seem to know who Sam is, because Castiel brings up, my partner, the man with the tall man with the beautiful hair. I mean, Sam's hair is gorgeous. And Cindy's still looking at him with that look on her face like a cow that's just been struck between the eyes with a sledgehammer, that I don't know what you're talking about look. But she's still extremely pleasant, extraordinarily pleasant, too forking pleasant. And when Castiel goes to sit down, she screams at him not to sit where he was going to sit, because that's her husband's chair. And her husband comes in the room, her husband Justin. Except that her husband Justin, I'm sorry, also at this point Castiel is telling her, I'm sorry, your husband is dead. And she's all like, no, my husband's not dead. He's fine. Everything's fine with my husband, and all this stuff with this. So either this woman is so far up the river of denial she can see Egypt, or, something else is going on. And as it turns out, her husband Justin comes in the room. Her husband Justin, who is Sam, who doesn't know Castiel, and says that he's Justin Smith and is wearing a cardigan and a tie and has his arm around this woman and glasses on and his hair slicked back, and I am going completely Hulk smash. Did I mention I also don't do anger well? Have I mentioned that? Because now I want to hit Cindy in the face with a wrench several dozen times, because I'm like, you did this. I don't know how you did this, but you did this. Castiel tries to snap Sam out of whatever this is, but it's not working. Sam is insisting he's Justin Smith. He's married to Cindy. He has no idea who Cass is, and when Cass tries to get him to get the hell out of there, including using the word hell, Sam acts like Cass just called him an effing C word, which doesn't make much sense if you call it to a dude, but still. And very firmly throws Castiel out. Now, why Cass doesn't just touch him in the head, knock him out, and drag him out of here, your guess is as good as mine. But I'm like, by this point, I don't know what the heck to do, because I'm literally choking on a ball of rage that's lodged somewhere in my throat, directly under my epiglottis, and the only sounds coming out of my mouth are these horrified, rage-filled half screams that I'm certain if anybody heard them, they probably would have come running into the room, because it probably sounded like an animal being slowly tortured to death. I'm like, I need a drink. And I don't need a drink as I need a drink. I need to hit myself in the head with a bottle and knock myself unconscious. My big thing was you could at least see Sam's hair pulled back. It wasn't like his hair was cut, because if that had happened, I just would have had to commit harakiri. That just would have been it. I just would have committed harakiri right there. Back where we see where Dean and Jack have gone, this little field trip of Dean's has been to visit Donatello Redfield. And, Donatello's doing pretty well, apparently, for a guy that's got no soul and went through all that demonic stuff thanks to Asmodeus. What Dean wants is for Jack to talk with Donatello, and for Donatello to try and figure out if how much of Jack's soul he has left, if, hopefully he still has some left. So, they go inside, just Jack and Donatello. Dean says he'll stay outside and watch the snake. Dean's definition of watching the snake: pound on the roof for a second to see if the snake jumps out of the container he's in, and when he doesn't, just have Dean, walk down as far as he can to the other end of the car and just lean there. That's watching the snake. Because apparently Dean's figured out that the snake can't hotwire the car and leave, because who's going to press the brakes for it? And the gas, anyway. Donatello and Jack go inside and they start talking about, what's been going on. And Jack finds out about how Donatello's soul was taken from him, that Amara ripped it out of him and basically ate it. And when Jack asks how he feels and stuff like that, Donatello says that he feels empty inside. He compares it to the galaxy. That the galaxy is bright and shiny and spinny, but that at the middle, at the center, the heart of the galaxy, there is a black hole. Pleasant dreams, folks. Donatello says, it's the same with me. I'm all bright and shiny, obviously, not so much spinny, but inside, empty. So Jack asks him, so you feel bad? Donatello replies, I feel nothing. losing your soul doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you anything. It's an absence of pity, of empathy, of humanity. In other words, that doesn't sound really good, does it? No, it doesn't, children. We all remember what happened when Sam didn't have his soul. And, some of us don't want to think about that. And when we do think about it, we want to run our heads into the wall until those images go away. I am not recommending anybody run their heads into the wall to make images go away. It works for me, but I'm not saying it would work for anybody else. Jack says that he doesn't know how he feels. He doesn't feel like he feels nothing, but he definitely feels different. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I would think absorbing the grace of an homicidal maniac archangel might actually do that to you. But he says he doesn't know how he feels, but he does know that he doesn't want his family to worry about him. Now, to me, that says that Jack still has his soul, at least part of it. Some of it. I don't know how much, but some of it. Because he doesn't want people to worry about him. Not because he feels like they're a burden to him. He just doesn't want to cause them pain. That's caring. That's empathy. So Jack's still got some of his soul anyway. Donatello's advice to him is... Donatello explains that what he does is goes by the idea of what would Mr. Rogers do, which is what he's been, we knew about that already because he brought that up in the episode The Rising Sun from season 13, that his whole way that he lives is that he asks himself, what would Mr. Rogers do? Jack asks who Mr. Rogers is, and I'm thinking to myself, you chuckleheads haven't shown him who Mr. Rogers is? I'm sorry. Oh gosh, that was completely Team Mom, wasn't it? I'm completely Sam, Dean, Winchester, what are you doing? Show that child Mr. Rogers right now! Sorry, again, Team Mom moment. I don't know where this stuff comes from. Oh gosh. Donatello says Mr. Rogers was the best man he knew, and I'm like, oh, that's so true. Jack responds to that by saying that the best men that he knows are Sam and Dean. So Donatello says, so ergo, whenever you don't want them to worry, just think WWWD. What would the Winchesters do? I'm like, all right, there's overwhelming logic in that. I'm also thinking to myself, well, I think a couple of times you probably wouldn't want to do that because we know, I love Sam and Dean. You all know I love Sam and Dean, and I do. I love them to bits. But occasionally they can do some pretty dumb stuff. I mean, they're men. They can't help it. Bless their hearts. Any men I have listening to this show, I'm extremely sorry. That was really not kind. So Jack walks outside with Donatello, and they're all ready to go. And Donatello and Dean talk for a minute as Jack gets into the car, and Dean asks Donatello if Jack still has a soul, and Donatello says that he probably does, but he's basically saying, he's pretty sure that he does, but he's not. If he seems okay, then he probably is all right, but just to watch, keep an eye out for him and stuff like that. When Dean asks, so Dean says, so he's not like you. And Donatello's answer is, oh no, I'm a prophet of the Lord, but Jack's probably the most powerful being in the universe. I mean, really, who knows what's going on inside his head? And he and Dean both kind of look at Jack, who looks up at them and waves at them with a smile on his face in the car. And I'm like, oh, Lord, please don't let this go where I think it's going to eventually this season, because I can't deal with that. I'm sorry, these maternal feelings are terrible. How do women deal with this? I mean, sheesh. We cut back to the diner, and we see Castiel confronting Sunny, and he accuses her of being a witch. He thinks that she's done this to this town. She's expelled all these people somehow. And he's like, what have you done, and all this stuff like that. And like I said, he's accusing her of being a witch, and she's saying she's not. And well, so first she tries being like, I don't know what you're talking about, and that never works. Oh Lord, don't do that. Whenever anybody starts at you like that, especially with the kind of intensity that Castiel can give off, Lord, don't go, I don't know what you're talking about, because that's never going to end well for you. Because Castiel threatens to tear it out of her head, and his eyes flash blue, showing that he's not effing around, that he'll really do it. And she says it's not her, that he's out of control. As it turns out, he is her father, and that he's there with some other men from the town, including Sam, who all now look like they would like to break Castiel's neck. Chip explains the situation as he sees it to Cass. As it turns out, he isn't a witch either. He's a psychic. He's a very specific type of psychic. He is a reality warper, for lack of a better term. I mean, I don't know how to word it. He also, it's reality warping along with mind control, which if you can come up with a more dangerous thing short of just making people's hearts explode, good luck to you. He explains that the town that this town that he's from, apparently from the sound of it, that he never left, the town was dying. That the local mill closed, his wife passed away, people were moving away from town, and that the people that did stay were unhappy because there weren't jobs to be had, so people were turning to drink and drugs and crime, and it just wasn't the place that he remembered. And it was really stressful and awful for him, and that he started hearing all of these voices and things in his head, and he just one day just snapped and just wanted everything to be good, to be the way it used to be, and for everybody to be happy. And he realized that because of these powers of his, he could make that happen. He could, I don't know if he conjured up the clothes and the cars and all that stuff for people, and I don't know if he's been kidnapping people from kidnapping people that have stopped in town to make them stay, to make them be the people in this town, and, that he can just move around like little toys in his little make-believe place. But, that's what he's done. He's basically turned this town into, like, a little toy town where all of these people are little dolls that think the way he wants them to think and do the things he wants them to do and think they are who they think they are because he makes them that way. And the only person in town that he can't do that to, apparently, is Sunny, who really is his daughter. I thought it might turn out that she really wasn't his daughter, that she was play acting or something. But no, she really is his daughter. He asks Castiel why it doesn't work on him, and Castiel tells him it's because he's not human. I don't know, Cass. At that point, I think I would have gone with the whole "I'm an angel of the Lord, throw my wings out, look really badass." But you be you. But his whole attitude, Chip's whole attitude now is that because Castiel can't be controlled, that he's got to be eliminated. And Sunny runs out of the diner, and Chip goes after her. And the men, including Sam, wind up attacking Castiel. And I'm like, oh, Lord, this is going to be a slobber knocker. Cass pretty much handles the other two men pretty easily. I mean, I still don't know why he just didn't, touch him on the shoulder and knock him into unconsciousness kind of deal. But he deals with them pretty handily until he winds up being tackled by Sam, who he doesn't want to hurt Sam because he knows Sam. And the problem is Sam gets a hold of his angel blade and almost stabs him with it as Cass is pleading with him, don't you have to fight this? And Sam's like, I'm happy here. And Castiel's like, Sam, I know you want to be happy, and I know what it's like to lose your army. I know what it's like to fail as a leader, Sam, but you can't lose yourself. You have to keep fighting. You can't lose yourself, because if you do, you fail us. You fail all of those that we've lost. You fail Jack. Sam, you fail Dean. And that brings Sam out of it. Not before stabbing the angel blade down, but as it turns out, he stabbed it into the ground next to Cass. That happens to Cass a lot. It happened to him earlier in another season with a fight with Dean. And it turns out that that's the thing that broke this guy's hold on Sam. And bye-bye, Justin. Hello, Sam. So apparently it wasn't Cindy's fault at all, and Cindy was just another poor victim in this. So, sorry. I don't really want to hit you in the face with a hammer and with a wrench anymore. Sorry, my bad. As it turns out, Sunny's outside and she's screaming at her dad because her dad's trying to force all the blame for Conrad's death on her. He's all like, oh, well, you told him to leave and all this stuff like that, and if he left and that's the reason he died, I had to do it and it's your fault and all this stuff like that. And Conrad brings up that he's God in this town, and Sam's like, no, you're not. Believe me, we've met God. And Castiel's response to that is, God has a beard. That's the best you could come up with, Cass, really? Not God is my father and you're not my father or something, but again, you be you. The thing is, Chip uses his powers to attack Cass and Sam starts hearing that high-pitched noise as well, and you can tell that there's something very bad's going to happen until Sunny makes it stop, because she screams at her dad, and it has the same effect where their voices take on this weird kind of echo thing, and she winds up stopping Chip from hurting Sam and Cass. And Chip is really happy about this because he's like, this shows you have the same power I do. You're just like me. And Sunny's response to that is that she's nothing like her father, and that if he wants to be happy, then fine, she's going to make him be happy. And she, uses her powers, and her father just kind of slumps on the ground and has this completely, blank look on his face. And Castiel touches his head and kind of has this look on his face that he's seeing what Chip is seeing in his mind, that he's now trapped inside of his mind. He's trapped in this little paradise bubble inside of his mind that he's never going to be able to get out of, and he's going to be in there until he dies. I mean, Castiel brings up that it's beautiful, but he's trapped in there, to which Sunny's response is, good. I mean, she's seen her father do all these terrible things to people, and they may not have seemed terrible to him, but, I mean, taking people's free will away, dude, not effing cool. We come back to the Batcave, and Dean and Jack have just come in, obviously, and they've got the snake with them still. And Dean asks Jack if he enjoyed the talk that he had with Donatello and their little field trip and all that. And Jack says it was illuminating. I don't know why, but that sent a real cold chill down my back. Pretty soon after that, Sam and Castiel come back, and as it turns out, Castiel winds up must have talked to Dean at some point, and because Dean brings up the whole cardigan and the whole wife thing. Yeah, again, Cindy, sorry about the whole wrench in the face thing. My bad. Sam looks like he really wants to pimp slap Cass, but doesn't do it. Cass goes off to check on Jack, and Dean and Sam kind of talk for a minute, and Sam brings up that he guesses that he was happy, but he knows that it wasn't real. And Dean brings up that, there's not a lot of happiness in the Batcave right now at this point. And Sam actually brings up that he hates it there right now, that every place he looks, he sees the people that he feels like they failed, that he sees Maggie, and that, that's the reason he's been pushing them all so hard to go find cases and do all this stuff because he just couldn't deal with staying around a place that had been their home and was now all it reminded him of was death and hurt and pain. But he says, but I've got to stop that. I can't keep running. This is my home. This is our home. Dean, I think I just need some time. And instead of Dean being, all like, oh, suck it up, or teasing him or anything like that, Dean actually, is all like, he understands. And I was like, well, that's good. I'm like, that's what he needed. That's what Sam needed right then. He needed his brother to understand. And so we cut to Jack's room, and Jack is talking with the snake who he's holding. And he's talking about how the snake, everyone's saying that the snake is lonely, that he misses his friend. And he says, you need help. Sam and Dean would help you, so I'll help you. I'll help you see your friend again in heaven. And Jack uses his powers to kill the snake. He turns it to ash. And as this happens, we see Castiel watching through the partially open door, and the look on his face is, oh, no. And the look on my face was, I think I'm about to hyperventilate, and the episode ends. I have to give Peace of Mind 4.5 bouquets out of 5. Really fun episode in a few places, funny and scary and sad, and also extraordinarily terrifying. I never realized how I was that allergic to normalness. I mean, I know I've always kind of backed up like a scared dog when things are supposed to be like, all peachy and happy days and all that stuff. I'm like, that's not what life was like back then. It was like that if you were maybe white and male, but the rest of us had to really kind of deal with more stuff, probably. And watching Jared doing his best Ward Cleaver impression was really freaking hilarious now. At the time I was watching it, I was like, wow, you really can see red when you get this freaking angry. Wow, I don't like this. But it was a good episode. I really, really enjoyed it, but I gotta be honest, I am scared to death of where they are taking things with Jack. I am scared to death. That doesn't mean I'm gonna stop watching or anything like that. I'm just scared. Next week's episode, don't go in the woods, because anything that starts with the word don't, if we've learned nothing from European horror movies, anything that starts with don't look in the basement, don't open the door, don't this, that, or the other thing, that's never good. And we know that Sam and Dean are coming up against a monster they've never dealt with, and that Jack is trying to impress some new friends that he's made. So that should be interesting, especially if it's the kids from Lebanon, which I think is what it's going to turn out to be. So more Winchester insanity coming up next week, and I know you guys are looking forward to it, and so am I. Okay, before I head on out of here, kids, I'd like to say something on a personal note to somebody very special to me. My husband's birthday was yesterday, and he is a wonderful human being, and TC, I love you so much. You are my Mzadi, you are my rock, you are my best friend, you are my co-conspirator, you are the Clyde to my Bonnie, you are the bunny, you are the Claude to my bunny, I don't know how to come up with a good Batman and Robin euphemism, because neither of it. You are the Mr. J to my Harley Quinn. You are the light of my life. I love you so much, and I hope you had a happy birthday, because you are the best present that I ever got. Mwah. Okay, now that you've all gagged, I'm sorry, I just had to do that. So I hope you guys will check out the other shows that are part of our little demented island of misfit toys. Subject Cinema, Front Row 5 and 10, Ring Around the Rosie, Catastrophe, Vortex, Front Row, I mentioned Front Row, Tuesday Digidex, 3-Day Weekend, Cavebabble, what am I missing? Aunt B's, Nerd Grotto on YouTube. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, PlatinumRoselle@twitter.com. And if you'd like to send me a message, PlatinumRoselle@yahoo.com. If you'd like to send a letter or anything like that, I'd love to hear from you guys, just to know anybody's listening to this crazy show. And this is Platinum Rose Lady signing off for another week and reminding you to like, share, and subscribe. And love the ones you hug the ones you love. Take some time and stop to smell the roses. Happy St. Patrick's Day and slancha!
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.